And we'd like to apologize in advance for any technological issues we're having. None of our TVs are working. We're having equipment warranted. So for anything on the packet, please follow along on your cell phones or electronic devices. We can't share anything with tonight. We're going to start out our meeting with Councilmember Pulver leading us in an invocation or a thought and then the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to do an invocation. Dear Heavenly Father, please let us have a good meeting tonight, and that as council and citizens and everybody involved with staff, and that we can have all good understanding of what each other is trying to say, and understand the true path that we need to follow for to have the city have a great outcome tonight with decisions and everything else that needs to happen. Lord, we so grateful for all the things that we have in our life. And I say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Pulver. Item number 1 on our agenda, a conflict of interest. Does anyone have a conflict that they'd like to share tonight? All right, seeing none, we'll move on. Item number 2, discussion and consideration of the 2025 Municipal Wastewater Planning Program Annual Report. And our presenter is going to be Trent Wilkins, our Sanitary Sewer Superintendent.
Good evening, council members and audience. So this is the Municipal Wastewater Planning Program Survey for the year of 2025. This has to be done by every city or facility that has a sewer system or for collections and or treatment. We do not have treatment. We only do collections. We are 100% gravity fed. We don't have any pumps or lift stations or anything like that. This report is used to make sure we're in compliance with the sewer program as required by the state, which we are. It's used to make sure all our operators are in compliance and we are properly certified, and which we are. We have 5 operators in collections. We have Bryce Nelson, which is grade 4. Lee Cahoon is a grade 1. Kate Skeen is a grade 1. Myself, I'm a grade 3. And Tony Barragon is working on his. He's been with us for a year and a half, and it's a hard test to take. This report is also a way to report any backups or overflows that have been in our main lines, and we had 0 last year. This report also informs the state that we have a program / schedule in place for cleaning and inspecting our lines throughout the year, which we do, and we're out videoing and cleaning almost every day. The financial portion of this, and I'm sure you guys all got a copy of it in your packets. It's to prove and show to the state that money's been set aside for replacement and or repair of any sewer lines in need of being repaired or fixed. And when we're videoing, we find some that have to be fixed and we get on it right away. The report also lets the state know how many connections we have, how old the sewer system is, the average depth of our lines, and average depth is 8 to 9 feet. How many miles of sewer line we have, and we have approximately 96 miles. We have what the biggest diameter of line we have is in the report, and that is 21-inch diameter we have. And that's what I have for you. So, got any questions or?
Yeah. Anyone have comments or questions for Trent?
I have a quick question. So as I look through the report, I see Bryce, my friend over here. So Bryce is actually listed with his grade 4.
Yes.
So I'm familiar with his current position. Does he still help you in, how does that work with his?
So when Bryce hired on with the city, he started in the sewer department, and he took his test and got that, and he still maintains his CEUs to, yes, help us out when we do need help, when we're in a
Okay,
pinch.
Okay, okay, that's helpful. That's helpful.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we're doing the lining as we go every year, a little bit by little bit. About how far are we at this point?
With 8-inch line, we're well over half, maybe 3/4.
Okay.
And then we got the bigger diameter line to work on, and we'll get there. I bet maybe 10 years we'll get it all done, be my guess.
Cool. And that lasts for, is it 50 or more?
About 100 years is what the
100 years,
lifespan
okay.
is at. And we can repair a lot more sewer line with this liner instead of digging up the road and causing more headache for travelers and citizens.
Cool. Yeah. And that's something I think everybody needs to know. So that's why I kind of mentioned it.
There's a question that says, have you completed a system evaluation and capacity assurance plan? Could you share with us a little bit more what that is?
You know, like my Jones and Associates did that a long number of years ago.
Uh-huh.
And I know we have a copy of it over in our office. I'm not sure where it is, but
Uh-huh.
it was just to make sure our lines are up to size for how many residents we have and all the flow we have. That's what I remember. It's been so long ago that it was done. I don't open that every day, or I don't open it very often to look at it.
Okay.
So
So do we do that? I'm not sure we do it regularly, but apparently it is in the survey is important, it sounds like. So would we plan to be doing a update on that?
this, the state doesn't require that we do an update all the time. It was
Okay.
required a number of years ago when it was done. I can't
Okay.
remember when it was.
Okay,
uh,
okay. Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'd be looking for a motion to approve the 2025 Municipal Wastewater Planning Program Annual Report as presented by Trent.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Pulver,
And I'll second.
a second by Councilmember Neighbor. Do we have any other discussion? No. Okay, and this will be a voice vote, so all in favor, say aye.
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 All right, and motion passes 4-0. Well, any unopposed, even though you all said aye. Okay, still 4-0. Now, moving on to item number 3, and discussion and consideration on the planning commission appointment. When Councilmember Neighbor got appointed to the council, his seat became vacant, so we've held interviews and I'm presenting Craig Jorgensen, who's here tonight as the new planning commissioner. If you remember, he applied for council, so we talked to him then, and then he also came back and applied for the commission. So he's my recommendation. I'd be looking for a motion to approve him, and if so, then we'll get him sworn in tonight as well.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Neighbor. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Carney. Any additional discussion?
We get to grill him or anything?
You got if you want to ask him a question, go. Okay. All right, this is a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes 4-0. So now we'll let Ryan swear in Craig Jorgensen.
Hi, congratulations.
Thanks.
Hey, raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and that I will discharge the duties
and I will discharge the duties
of my office with fidelity.
of my office with fidelity.
Yep, that's right. Congratulations.
Thanks.
And I'll have you sign this real quick. Thank you very much. I'll get it signed and I'll send it over to you.
Perfect.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right, thank you.
Congratulations.
And we'll invite you to stay if you want, but we know that he was in Japan for the last couple weeks, so he just got home today, so you can go home to bed if you'd like, yeah. Okay. Item number 4, discussion and consideration of participating in the Partnering with the Utah Rivers Council 2026 Rain Harvest Program. And I'll be presenting on this. So as we discussed a little last week, and I think the week before, the Rain Harvest Program is asking if North Ogden would like to help contribute to the rain harvest barrels. And 2 years ago, we participated, and I was told we sold 37 barrels at that time. So it comes at $28 a barrel. Talking with John, we can get the money out of our stormwater or culinary water departments, because this will save on stormwater and some culinary water from being used. This would be also a good year where we are having a potential water decrease or a reduction because we don't have any. That it might be a good year to do. So our proposal would be, we'd come up with a number between 10 and 40 barrels that we're looking to support. If you don't want to do any, then that's fine too, and we'll just let them know. But like, any discussion from you on what the recommendation would be, or what you would support.
I don't know the number, but if we did 37 a couple years ago, it seems like 40 would probably be a reasonable amount. And considering I'd be surprised if we're not in a drought this summer. This could be a great opportunity for people to be able to water their gardens without drawing from our secondary system. So seems like it could be a win.
And I failed to mention as well, as we start going forward, and I think Jeff's going to mention it to us later, in the future, we may get reduction in watering rights anyways. In Utah, you can have up to 100 gallons of stormwater that you can store before you need a permit. So these barrels are 50 gallons each. So this would be an option for people to store some water and still water some of their own stuff without being metered. And then whatever, we can go up to whatever 40 barrels. And if we don't sell that many, we still only pay for what we're selling or what people want.
How are the barrels designed? Is there a capture point and there's a spigot of some kind?
So they are designed to capture from your rain gutter. So it'll come in the top, and then you have a spigot at the bottom, and there'll be an overflow. So once they're full, they do overflow. as
Okay.
well.
Okay.
And if I remember correctly, I think there's a way that they design them to keep mosquitoes from being a problem. So that was one of my first questions, but I think that's addressed. So I would recommend that we do 40 barrels at that $28 subsidized per barrel and see where it gets us. I really think by summertime, we're going to be glad that we did that. And I think we'll be happy that it's in place. And let's do it outside of, or I don't know exactly where it's going to come from, John, but it's stormwater or the other fund, but it seems like that is not going to have a huge financial impact on us.
Yeah, at 40, it would be just over $1,100, and maybe out of water might be best, because what we're trying to do is avoid people using their house spigots to water their flowers. So
Yeah.
it might be a good way to tie it together.
All right. So we have a recommendation for 40. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Second by Councilmember Neighbor. Do we have any further discussion? This will be a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Any opposed? Okay, I will get with the Utah Rivers Council and let them know we'll go up to 40 barrels. And this one again, huh? So they are gonna come out and start advertising in the next 2 weeks. And it'll be through they'll get us some literature so we can help advertise and let our residents know that the option's out there. And then the delivery is in April. Last year was up at Weber State. They're still working on logistics, but we'll get more information out. Okay, item number 5 is discussion and training on signing up for city council notifications. And Ryan's really excited to give this training with no technology. So she would actually like to see if anyone would mind tabling this again until we can get TVs working.
I move that we table the signing up for city council notifications until Ryan has the tools necessary to present it.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All right, another voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll table that till our next meeting, March 24th. Okay. Now we'll go to the active agenda. This is where we have public comments. We invite everyone to come up to the microphone, state your name, whether you're a resident in North Ogden, and then let's leave our comments to 5 minutes or less. And that the time is yours, and John will monitor online since we can't see that. So, time is yours.
So my name is Stephanie Goodrich, resident of North Ogden. I live in the Cove, so right next door to Jordan Park. You guys should have gotten an email from me this afternoon. Apologies for the late submission for a long email. So I'm not going to go through everything that I put in there, but there were 2 points really that I kind of wanted to reiterate. Is that better? Yes, quite tall enough. And the first point might have changed a little bit given the conversation that Barry and I were just having. So I'm going to cover it and then mention where we might see some changes once the actual topic on Jordan Park comes up. But one of the concerns that I had going into this was the fact that going through the documentation, so the deferral agreement, the various exhibits that were attached, as it sat today with the attachments, there was no indication that the reference like 14.06 acre feet of water shares had actually been secured and were signed off, et cetera. There's an Exhibit D as in dog, that includes a water contract for the allotment of the acre feet to, and I'm going to say this out loud, it's a lot of words, Weber Box Elder Conservation District from the Weber Basin Water Conservation District, but it's not signed. And the conversation that I was just having before this started with Barry suggests that maybe that's been taken care of, but I like to make sure to really get that firmed out, because at least my opinion as of reading through the documentation was that until such time that the water shares were actually contractually put in place, really should not be having this discussion on a deferral agreement. It is absolutely critical, given the language that's in the deferral agreement that's kind of loose as it's written. Unless those were in place, we really should not be having that conversation any further. But Barry's gonna, I think maybe Barry will discuss it later, but suggest that possibly that part's been taken care of. My next concern really focuses on water conservation and the concern of the availability of water, given all the development that's going on in North Ogden and how that's going to look in the future. The proposed water share allotment for Jordan Park is significantly smaller than what we have over in the Cove. It's about 60% less. We have a single share of water for each home in the Cove, and I believe it equates to about 0.38 over in Jordan Park. So it's significantly smaller. Yes, the lots are a little bit smaller, but that doesn't prorate out at all. Given the proposed water share allotment is so much smaller, to achieve that allotment and not go into an overuse situation, alignment to the water efficiency standards are definitely going to be necessary. But there's some concerns with those water efficiency standards. The way the language is written in the Weber Box Elder Conservation District will serve letter, it states that, in quotes, the owner will also be required to comply with the new water efficiency standards. But these same standards included in that Exhibit D document are, in quotes, guidelines that should be considered. So you've got a combination of shall comply, but they're guidelines that should be considered. When you actually go into that Exhibit D document, it's a mixture of should statements and shall statements. It's mostly should statements. So when you start talking about you really need to abide by these efficiency standards, if they're sitting there as should statements, is how much enforcement capability do you really have there? How does one comply with a should statement when things that are written as really requirements or guidelines really are not enforceable? So what I'd like you to think about is either we need to change everything over to shall statements or significantly beef the majority of the statements that are included in Exhibit D to shall statements, or consider changing the language in Section 7 of Exhibit D to require that once the water allotment volumes are exceeded, the water supply should be shut off. So those are other than the statements that I put to you in my email, definitely have those concerns, but these are things that the more I thought about it, that I really wanted to make sure to put forward to you guys as you consider what that deferral agreement looks like. Right. Thank you.
Garrett Blang, North Ogden Cove resident. Stephanie's my wife. I've read through the document. I come from an oil and gas background. As far as I'm concerned, the document does not have any teeth to it. So first, I think the city should stop further development until water shares have been confirmed and signed by both parties. In the oil and gas, you can't start drilling a well until you have your permit. It clearly states that no development should begin until you have your water shares. I think we're wasting a lot of the city's resources coming up with this document. Let the developer get the water shares, and then we decide whether or not we need to do any further discussion on this. But we're wasting resources and we're wasting our time. Thank you for your time.
Okay, anyone online, John? All right. Okay, we'll move on from public comments. Item number 7, discussion and consideration of an agreement with Lumen Utility Consult for electricity billing audit services. And our presenter will be Peter Brown, our finance director.
Evening, council. We've been doing some budget hearings the last couple of weeks with the Citizen Budget Committee, and one of the things that consistently comes up is the need to look for ways in which we can save the city money, particularly in areas where there's some low-hanging fruit. I've been in discussions with this company for about a year now. Actually started working with them in the other jurisdiction I worked for before I came up here to do some similar things. But what we're proposing and what we've got before you tonight is a opportunity for to work with Lumen. They essentially do electricity audits, and what that means is not so much how much our lights are turning on and off, but more how much our utility companies like Rocky Mountain Power are charging us for our actual utility consumption. They have some technology where they can go through and look at the meter readings and see what the discrepancies are, see that we're being overcharged. And then they, on our behalf, will work with the utility company to lower those rates. What we're asking is to enter into agreement with them where whatever savings they find, they get half of those savings. So that's sort of the payout for them. If they can't find any savings, there's no cost to the city. But if they do find some savings, we share that savings with them. It's a contract for 5 years. There's a provision there about natural gas as well. We want to defer that. We're not going to discuss that tonight. They were looking at also coming in to try to help us broker some natural gas, but we're not quite ready to look at that yet. We'd like to move forward and consider this kind of electricity utility audit agreement. Last time I talked with them, they estimated the savings anywhere from that was pretty wide range, but I guess depending on the 8 to 10,000 a year was the savings that we're sort of looking at. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. It's a 1-page contract. Are there any questions or thoughts that you have on this?
I have some questions. As with you in your previous position, in my previous position, we've done this also. So I kind of have a high level of professional skepticism on audits. And I'm just looking at the contract now a little bit. And so I'm glad to know the reference point is $8,000 a month.
What's a year?
A year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess the thing as I'm looking at the contract, I'm looking at item 3, where, 50% of savings just seems excessive to me. And I have participated in these before, and it's any refund or credit that they look at. What's the period going back? 5 years, Peter? How many
It's-
years are they going back? 30, say again? 36. And so 50% of any savings there. And then if they confirm savings ongoing, those savings flow back to them for 5 years.
Correct.
So my first question is, and it's nothing against lumens, it's just the process. Have we looked at other potential vendors? And I'm not sure if that's required by procurement, because we would be reaching a contract or an amount for a mandatory bid, I think, possibly. So that's my first question. Have we looked at other vendors and see if a 50% commission is within reason there? So first question.
We asked that question. I don't think there's a lot of players in the market that do this sort of thing. And then the amounts we're not talking about a $50,000 payment, or the amounts were low enough that, we weren't looking at a sealed bid or anything like of that nature.
Yeah.
But no, we didn't go farther than we spent a few. We had some discussions and I did some research, but
Yeah.
I didn't see any of the real players on the market
Yeah,
that would relate to this.
So I did a quick Google search before I came, and I think there are players in the market. Yeah, yeah. I'm looking at item 7. The agreement will continue to renew for consecutive 12-month periods unless canceled in writing. So I'm not getting a sense that that's 5 years in the future. That could be beyond 5 years. Am I misreading that? Item 7, the agreement will continue to renew for consecutive 12-month periods unless canceled in writing. In the event of.
I mean, we could cancel it in writing, I think, in the 5-year time frame.
Yeah.
Our understanding is we were going to go for 5 years and then reassess.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess, again, my background, I have this high level of professional skepticism on it. So I'm still not convinced that this might be the correct contract for us.
Okay.
But I'd be interested to hear if any of the other council members have any other experience with these utility audits.
So I don't have experience with this. I'll be straightforward on that. So it is great that we have a council member that has some sort of experience in this. In the staff report, it kind of refers to, it talks about, it says at the end, we believe the savings are worth the contractual encumbrance as staff have limited capability to do this sort of utility audit in-house. So if we're comparing auditing in-house versus this consultant, then that would make sense. But if there are other players in the market that could be brought in for a request for proposal, where we get several different to come to us, seems like that might be a good idea. But I'm not at all a professional in this area. So I'm interested to see what the other council members have to say.
Go ahead.
I think the biggest thing is what Peter's talking about is low hanging fruit. I know there might be other things going on, but to spend time and money to go out and research more, and I guess maybe this is a question to Peter, is that something that you're willing to do to come back, or is it something that it's just not worth it and it's either this and I'll probably just not do it? I mean, because to me, if we're talking about a savings to the city, I mean, I guess, that would be a question to Mr. Councilman Neighbors is it worth it to staff time to further investigate something that's a little bit, 10% of $8,000 is 800. I guess the risk is the juice worth the squeeze in this case to further investigate and keep going. In my opinion, I don't think it is, but I kind of leave that to Peter and also to kind of, I think this is something that we as the part of the council or the citizen budget committee always asking about. I think that came up last year, or the year before, is energy efficiency, and looking into that. And this, to me, is the exact result of it that we want to do. So, I don't know, I'm talking in circles, but at the
No,
same time, I think this is something that's
No, no,
important.
you're doing good.
but-
I like the concept of it. I guess my question is, have you looked beyond just this one company?
No, and part of the problem is just I mean, if we're talking, $50,000, if we're talking substantial savings, we would have really dug a lot deeper. To Councilman Pulver's credit, we were looking at a few $1,000s of savings, and we sort of just wanted to move forward on it, largely because we don't have the time, and we could go out and try to figure out how to do this. But the other part is the time and effort it takes to contract utility companies to sort of like argue back and forth with them in terms of what the real charge is. Because that's really, in my opinion, that's where I saw the meat of the effort was sort of that interaction with utility companies to kind of lower those rates. I don't necessarily want to have something encumbered for 5 years.
Yeah.
Either. But maybe in 5 years, the technology will be different. We'll have an opportunity to figure some things out to save it.
Peter,
on
do you
our
have
own,
a
so.
reference that 50% is a reasonable rate? I mean, do you have a
I mean,
sense of-
I don't, I haven't done enough of these to know if
Yeah.
that's a reasonable charge.
Yeah.
The issue for me was the idea that we're going to lower our utility
Yeah.
costs, but I'd also see that the work that they're going to put into it,
Yeah.
that makes sense. It's not like as if they're just brokering it and going to take the 50%. They're putting time and effort into it to sort of make it
And
work,
I'm not
so.
disagreeing with that. I'm
Oh.
just saying you're looking back
Yeah.
5 years and then 5 years forward. You never know.
Looking back 3 years, I think it was.
Yeah, 36. Yeah. And then 5 years forward, possibly longer, 50% split on the savings. Is 50% a reasonable amount? Is the time frame a reasonable amount? I mean, once they've identified the savings, you're going to be able to jump on that moving forward. But you
Correct.
got 5 years,
Correct.
you're going to have to pay them for that.
Correct.
So I like the efficiency piece. It's just, is this contract the best contract for us? And have we looked beyond? And that's my question. And it sounds like we haven't really. I like what you're doing, Peter, though. I'm not being critical of that. It's just, I think I've made my point on
Yeah,
it.
sure.
But I think you're doing the right thing.
And I think if council wants us to like take some time and look at some other options, I think we can do that. That's if council wants us to do that, we can do that too. So.
So I just bring up the point. And is this gentleman the Lumens?
Yeah, Kendall Schmidt is here from Lumens. If you have any particular questions, maybe.
Are we okay with inviting him up to hear a little bit more about?
Yep.
Okay.
Contract with them,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
I represent Lumen Utility Consult. My name's Kendall Schmidt. I'm not an attorney. I'm not an expert in contract law. I know our contract is one page, so it's very simple.
Uh-huh.
And we're a small company. We have some flexibility.
Uh-huh.
Like if the council really felt strongly about certain things, I could certainly go back and advocate. I did bring just a small example to help everybody maybe better understand what the services we're actually providing. I thought Peter did a great job of
Yeah.
explaining, but if you wouldn't mind, I'll just
Yeah,
hand these
that'd
out.
be helpful. You're a small company. Are you based in Texas? When I looked you up, it looked like you were from Texas, right? Based in
The
Texas?
owner that founded it in Cache Valley moved down to Texas. And so there's myself and two other people here in Utah. There's a person, an auditor in Illinois. Her husband's going to medical school. And then the founder is down in Austin, Texas. So the paper I handed out there is just a copy of, I believe, page 17 on your Rocky Mountain Power bill. And I made 7 copies. I apologize. Well, I could have kept one because we don't have a councilman there. But if you look down about 3/4 down the page, there's service for the Parks and Rec. I believe it's a park service down there. And it's on a schedule 23. So this is what our auditors do. They're looking at your bill. They're looking at what you're using the power for, and then what rate schedule you're put on. And what our auditor would do would be to work with Rocky Mountain Power directly on your behalf to change that from a Schedule 23 to a Schedule 10. And what that would do is, I think it's about 50 some odd dollars there is what the charge was in that month. Because we switched from a Schedule 23 to a Schedule 10, you would save about $40 a month.
What's the rationale for justifying the Schedule 10 out of curiosity?
Well, the rationale is based on how you're using the power.
So
because
Rocky
that-
Mountain is misclassified, this is what you're saying. as a-
Yes, and we're not here to point fingers at Rocky
Oh,
Mountain
no, I'm
Power.
just asking.
Yeah, they come out, they set a meter, they activate your service, they put you on a Schedule 6, and they walk away. Nobody asks any questions. Nobody realizes, holy cow, we shouldn't be on a Schedule 6, we should be on a Schedule 23, or we shouldn't be on a Schedule 23, we should be on a Schedule 10. Nobody knows the difference. And that's where our opportunity comes in, is we are very familiar with the tariffs, and we go back to Rocky Mountain Power and we say, this should be reclassified because of how they're using the electricity, because of what they're doing. And like if I went down to the Smith's grocery store and wanted to do a utility audit for them, there'd be absolutely no point because they're on a Schedule 6 and they should be on a Schedule 6. There's nothing to help them with. But cities and counties get caught in this because you've got so many different types of uses of power. So we're working with Weber County right now. We're working with Cache County. We're working with Tooele County, working with several cities throughout the state of Utah, and we've saved them significant amounts of money. So when you're asking about like other competitors, I believe that if you do a Google search, you could find other competitors. I don't know if their contract is one page long. I don't know, I don't know a lot of things about them, but what I do know is that we go to like the trade shows where the county councils or the city councils are coming, or city managers or finance directors. We're the only company of this sort at those kind of trade shows where you folks are gathering. So I would say there's not a ton of other vendors in this space that are offering this kind of service.
So if you went beyond, talk about the 40% commission.
The 50%,
50%
yeah, the 50%. The 50% comes down to what we're doing is we're looking at the bill every single month. So just because we switch you from a 23 to a 10 doesn't mean that something couldn't get switched back. We're also calculating it every month. So we're looking at your month. So in that particular example, that was a July to August bill. Well, your January to February bill for that park service might be almost no electricity use because you're not really pumping water to water the lawn or whatever. So in that case, we're looking at it going, well, if you were on the 23, you would have spent $14, but because you're on the Schedule 10, you're spending $6, so there's a savings of $8, and we invoice you for $4. So we're literally looking at your bill every month, every line item that we helped you change to make sure nothing got switched back, and that's how we calculate how much savings there is, and then we split it.
I guess my question more is reasonableness on the 40%. And then once, I guess the thing that gets me a little
Keep
bit.
saying
too,
40%.
The 50.
No one changed it to that yet.
Probably that's what it's probably a Freudian slip there,
Yeah.
isn't it? So
50%.
I guess the piece also is once you've found the problem, you get to enjoy that rate for 5 years. No.
I don't think so.
Well, you're not saying that once you get a savings, it's you find the savings, you get that, but year month to month to
2%.
month, you don't get that savings again.
No, we do. We continue to get half of the savings, as Councilman Neighbor is pointing out. We would take out, because we're calculating every month to make sure that nothing switched back, that the changes we made are in fact what we made them, and we're looking at your bill every single month. We're like with you for 5 years to make sure. And then if we find something new, we apply that. So it is exactly what he's saying it is. But what I would point out is the changes and savings that we're going to go get Rocky Mountain Power to make on your behalf that nobody in the city knew about prior to us approaching Peter here and bringing it to your attention. The savings you're going to enjoy, I would argue, will be around for 20 or 30 years. So we created savings and we're saying, hey, we want to share into it for 5 years, but you're going to potentially benefit from this from 20, 30 years down the road. And we got something fixed that would have just leaked away for.
Yeah, I guess my only, not concern per se, but Peter's just gonna have to make sure that we classify that in a certain way so it doesn't look like a bill that we're just randomly sending to, like when next year during the citizen budget committee and someone goes, what the crap are we spending $8,000 on lumens for when they're not doing it, that type of thing. So that's my only concern is that, we're just making sure that it's categorized in the correct way. But
Yeah.
I get it. And I don't think there's any issue, especially if we wouldn't have been saving that amount if you weren't doing it. So
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm hoping that the bill we send you is 8,000 because that means we'll save 16. So that's an even bigger savings, but we're not here to oversell it.
Yeah.
We think there's 8 total. We'll make $4,000 for our time and effort and management of this. And you folks will save $4,000 on behalf of the city.
Is there any arrangement? I guess it's the 5 years of you participating where you're not really doing, I mean, use your expertise. Wouldn't that be a less percent that you would participate in? And it's just me. And I could be stupid on this.
I'm not totally opposed. I think I would prefer to, like, if we wanted to sit down and negotiate, sit down with Peter and
Yeah.
and maybe the council and privately come
Okay. I
to some
understand
numbers
that.
rather than do it. But
I can understand that.
yeah, so that like I said, we're a small company. There's not 18 layers of bureaucracy to go through if we were to get some sort of a little bit of a contract amendment.
Yeah.
So I'm not hard knowing that. I'm saying we can work something out. We obviously want to work with you folks. We've already seen that there's some opportunity there for both the city and us, and we think it's a win-win. And that's the kind of relationship we're trying to enter into is win-win.
I interrupted you. I'm sorry. Did you?
You're okay.
Oh, okay.
Covered it.
I guess for me, it's more, is there other providers that we should take a look at and the percent participation rate? And in doing that via the staff, I'm comfortable with that, but.
So one thing that I think about is we're going to have 5 years worth of data that we can kind of, so say we go into contract with Lumen and they are making a cut on things for 5 years, we will be able to see everything that has happened for those 5 years. And so I think we're going to have more of an education as to where we saved money and where we need to watch in the future. So if we get to the end of the 5 years, we've saved a bunch of money and we can look over all of those reports that we received for 5 years and keep an eye on it ourselves after that, to make sure that these different classifications haven't changed. So that's one thing that comes to my mind.
Mhm.
I mean, coming into this meeting, I thought this was going to be a very easy discussion and this would be pushed through pretty quickly. But I didn't have all of the different ideas and thoughts that Councilman Neighbor has in his mind.
Can I add just one more little point of data for you folks to consider? Well, 2 points. Number one, it is a 5-year agreement. There is no 6 years. You don't have to cancel,
Yeah.
on the 4th year between the lunar month of whatever. Like we're done at 5 and we're happy to say, here you go. The savings are in place. You're in good shape. You shouldn't need to do this unless the city's doubled in size and you've added a ton of new park meters or this, that, or the other. That's point number one. Point number two is when we did this for Tooele City, we had to go back to the Public Service Commission 7 times to get their rate changed on a particular issue. So it's not maybe as easy as you're thinking it is. There is some professional and technical expertise. You have to know what you're talking about because if they say no, you have to know why they're saying no and whether their no was correct or not. You could get a false no, like they're saying no, but it should be yes because they're not reading the tariff correctly. So there's some pushing and pulling on behalf of the city that we do that is valuable. So
How many cities do you work with?
we work with, I could get you actually a list of references, but we're working with about 4 counties and I believe about 4 cities. So the most recent one is Enoch City down in southern Utah. And
For the past 3 years that you look back in time, when would North Ogden receive that 50% cut of the savings?
And this is actually a reason why the 50% for 5 years going forward is applicable. We've looked at your bills and there's no refund to be had. There's no 3 years to claw back anything. There are, in certain cases, there are amounts that we can go back. I worked with a large dairy here in Utah. I won't name them, but we're getting them a $55,000 refund. So literally when you apply for it, then you can go back 36 months. So even if they take 6 months to approve it, they go from the date you applied for it backwards. But in North Ogden's case, there's not a refund to be had. Sorry for the bad news, but that even means that there's less for us to make going backwards, and really what we have to count on is the go forward rate.
That's interesting. So you've already,
I'm glad I asked that question because I
You were
thought
hoping
that-
there was
I thought
25,000, yeah.
I thought the 3 years previous, there's going to be some sort of savings or cut that the city receives from that research that you did.
If there was
Potentially,
Yeah.
but not likely, it sounds like.
potentially, but not likely, and we've already taken a limited glance at your billing, and we don't think there's a big refund to be had. And I apologize for
okay. That's
making-
helpful to know. I appreciate your transparency, honesty on that.
Yep. So, did you have a question?
Oh, he actually covered us.
Oh, he covered it. Okay. Any other questions I can answer? Thank you for your time.
All right, council, what would we like to do? Would we like to approve the agreement or table it to and do a little bit more work? Or deny it altogether?
Can I ask John a question? John, is this a contract? Maybe it isn't that with the dollar potential. And it's weird to say there's no cost because they're giving us money. Is that how we're getting around the procurement code a little bit? Because we're not buying anything?
Well, so that's one of the nuances. Another one is just the fact that we don't know what it will cost.
Yeah.
Or what the value of
Yeah.
it will be.
Yeah.
But it's coming to the council, which is where every contract comes. It's
Mhm.
kind of unique,
Uh-huh.
particularly when it's more than a year.
Yeah.
And so we're relying on that provision to come to the council and say, hey, since it's longer than a year, it should be approved by the council. And then in our ordinance, it says the council can essentially enter into any agreement that it feels is beneficial to the city. And they don't want to say that it ignores the procurement code, but
Uh-huh.
it allows the council to be outside of what the standard rules that the employees follow are.
So the 5-year timeframe doesn't create any legal issues for us. then?
No, and we have other contracts that 7 years is the limit on
Okay,
contracts.
that's probably
Yeah.
good. Okay. Well, I could make a motion.
Okay.
Since I did most of the talking on this. Make a motion to ask the staff to look at if there's other companies that would do this service and get just not a formal bid, but maybe just some kind of a bid to see if the timeframe and the 50% is in the boundary lines. And then bring up back their suggestion at the next meeting. That would be my motion if that makes,
So table this one for,
for the staff to evaluate a little bit.
Okay.
That would be my motion.
all right, so we have a motion to pretty much to table and to do more research. Do we have a second? Okay, well, it looks like your motion dies for a
Well,
lack of a
good.
second.
That's okay.
All right. Do we have another, or a motion to approve, or a motion to deny, or a different motion to table?
Mayor, I motion that we approve the agreement with Lumen Utility Consult for electricity billing audit services.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Pulver. Sorry, Ryan, is this an agreement number on this? Okay, All right, thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Dowpaz. Any further discussion?
Yeah, the reason I'm because like I said, the amount of money we're talking is, and the staff has so much other stuff going on. And I think to get this out the door, I think is something important. I know there might be other companies that might give us another, give us 60% instead of 50. But at the same time, if they're only getting $800, I mean, that's not, I don't say it's not worth their time, but it's not, staff has way more or other important things. And so if we're allowing them to get savings for us, I think it's worth it to allow them to do that.
And I just wanted to jump in and clarify that that's part of my reasoning. I'm very in line with Councilman Pulver, the way that he's saying that. I just think the extra time and effort that is going to be taken by staff will probably outweigh any additional savings.
Okay.
That's kind of where I'm at too. 50% to 40% isn't a huge deal to table it. Same thing.
All right. So we'll start with a roll call vote, and I forgot to lay out the order. Tonight we'll start with Councilmember Pulver. We'll go to Councilmember Carney, and then Councilmember Neighbor, and Councilmember Dowpaz. Councilmember Pulver.
Yes.
Councilmember Carney.
Yes.
Councilmember Neighbor.
No.
And Councilmember Dowpaz.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes 3-1. Item number 8, discussion and consideration of a deferral agreement for the installation of secondary water improvements for Jordan Park subdivision. And our presenter is going to be City Manager John Call.
Thank you, Mayor. So council, this is the agreement. You've seen a version of this before and been involved in conversations about this. This is that Jordan Park development up on the northeast side of the city. It's 37 lots. And the issue they ran into was they originally were going to be serviced through the Mountain View irrigation system. Their requirement for water shares was pretty high. They weren't able to secure those water shares. And so they've come and asked for a deferral agreement while they finalize the process with Pineview. This is not allowing them to use culinary water or giving them a waiver on any of our requirements. It's just allowing them to move forward with the development and the building permits for a certain number of homes. In the agreement, it's written as 5 homes can be started, and then they would get occupancy in theory for those 5 homes as well while this happens. There was an updated number in the financial security section 2.1. It's been updated based on conversations with our city engineer to $791,839. I would put it on the screen, but the screens aren't working. And so that is the kind of the conservative estimate from our engineer on getting the water out of Pineview's basin up connected to the Jordan Park system that's in the ground. And that would allow them to start irrigating and installing their landscaping. The agreement is heavily reliant on Pineview and Weber Basin. Some of their contracts and the documents are attached as exhibits just so the council could see everything that's going on. We do have Barry Gettleman with Hamlet Homes here who can answer questions, as well as Jeff Humphreys in the back of the room. I'm not sure if he wants to get up or not, but he runs Pineview and the Weber Box Elder Conservation District and several other of those water companies in the area. And he could probably provide better information about the contract between Weber Basin and the Weber Box Elder Conservation District, as opposed to what Barry and I could possibly do. But as far as my understanding is, the fee for the water has been paid. We're waiting on Weber Basin to their board to approve the contract. I don't want to say it's a formality, other than the idea is that Weber Basin, their job is to provide water. They have several contracts with Weber Box Elder, and so I don't foresee an issue here, but Jeff and Barry could maybe speak to that a little bit more. I do want to say that this agreement, in my opinion, includes the legal necessities You know, Barry and I have had conversations about what should be in it politically. One of the things that I'm really glad that they included is the requirement that there be a covenant or a deed restriction that's imposed on these properties. So all future purchasers, not just the initial one, but anyone who might buy it in 20 years would know the same landscaping restriction that will be imposed on these properties. As was pointed out in public comments earlier, it is pretty severe. 0.3 acre feet will limit them to 5,000 or less square feet of turf, and then only about another 1,500 square feet of other irrigated area. So they couldn't fill it up with bushes and stuff. It would be a lot of xeriscaping with some plants and stuff intermixed. Why I think that restriction is really important to the city is with the new water meters that Pineview is putting in, as a reminder, as they've told us before, when the meters hit the allotment for the year, they'll turn off. They'll be locked out. You can't get any more secondary water out of them. And in that unlikely scenario, or probably that likely scenario, because we have some folks who use excessive water, people might try and turn to culinary water. And so one thing that will need to be considered on the future council meeting is some penalty increases for those who are using culinary water in violation of our ordinances. From a staff perspective, again, circling back to this agreement, I think we've got what we need. The big thing for me was that deed restriction and then the escrow money, that roughly $800,000 to get the improvements done. Those are the two biggest things that I felt like staff needed to get this across the finish line. And with that, probably recommend that you have Barry, ask him a few questions if you don't have any for me, and then you can see if you want to, if you have questions for Jeff with Pineview and Weber Box Elder.
Council, what would we like to do? Would like to hear from Barry?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Come on up. And this is your chance to ask John any questions or ask Barry any questions as well. We've had discussions before for the last couple meetings ago. So.
Thank you, Council. I'm Barry Gittleman, resident of Draper, and we own Jordan Park in North Ogden. We've been to a few council meetings since September. And I believe that now we have worked with city staff, with John as city manager and as city attorney, and with the city engineer. I believe we've addressed all of the concerns that have been brought up by council, by staff, and during public comment as well. Stephanie mentioned earlier that the document that was attached in the notice that went out wasn't signed. That contract has been signed and delivered to Weber Box Elder Water Conservation District now. So that's done. We had to deliver a check for about $318,000 to them. That's also done. We had to sign and get notarized documents from us, and 2 of the lots were already sold. So we had to get the owner of those 2 lots to sign and notarize documents and deliver. That's also been done. And Stephanie also brought up the 0.38 acre feet is very restrictive. We understand that. The language in the proposed deferral agreement addresses that. But I think for everyone to understand, that deferral agreement is not going to run with the land. It's got a 12-month limit on it, and it will expire either when we have secondary water from a water company, or at the end of 12 months, or after 5 certificates of occupancy have been issued. So the agreement we worked out with the city attorney was there will be a restrictive covenant or a deed restriction on all 37 lots. So that is your assurance, and for the neighbors and the public, that all of the future homeowners will be made aware of this restriction that's in place. Some of the public comment that came up last month was we don't want to put the burden of enforcement on the city and the city officials, so we've addressed that. There's no city water that's going to be used, and the new water meters, while they won't shut off automatically when the homeowners hit a limit, the water company, and Jeff can address this better than I can, they'll be informed if anyone exceeds their limit, and they'll send someone out there and they'll shut off their water. So that's enforced by the water company, and the city doesn't have to worry about that. So I think we've addressed everything that's come up during public comment from the city, from the staff. We're trying to do everything we can as fast as we can. And March 26th, in 16 days, we expect the formal approval of Weber Box Elder Water Conservation District. And then we'll move forward with the installation and get secondary water through Pineview. Questions?
Yeah, any questions for Barry? Yeah, go ahead.
So I guess the question that comes to my mind anyways is that some crazy thing happens and the secondary water issue does not get finalized. So what the city gets, I'll say, hampered with is the fact that the connection doesn't get done. And if let's see, I'm trying to read my own stuff here. Doesn't that mean that the 5 lots may have to use the culinary forever? Because if the secondary water doesn't get hooked up, Pineview, something happens. Right now, as it stands, we've connected up to 5 lots to culinary water. And I know the agreement says that, you know, it expires in a year, but that means that the city just gets the money. But if they can't do any connection about it, doesn't matter. I guess the thing to me is that I understand that the bond is tied to what the cost estimate is, but to me, I think it should be I don't make it punishment, but it should be large enough that, and this is no offense to you, it's developers in general, just don't cut bait and walk away, and that kind of risks the whole thing. You know, that I know it's probably a low risk, very low risk, but at the same time, we're signing or allowing something to be signed that doesn't address that fact.
So a couple things to correct. So there is nothing being hooked up to North Ogden City culinary water. Nothing. Not a drop. Not a single home. We're not using any of that water.
I thought that's what we were talking about.
No.
Okay.
A normal deferral agreement, the way that city code reads, and John can probably address this better than I can, would allow for culinary water on a temporary basis to be used in a subdivision where there's been a glitch or a delay.
So there's no connection at all to the culinary water for these 5 lots.
Correct.
Okay, so I guess the only thing is that we're deferring is the fact that they don't have secondary water and they can get occupancy.
Correct.
Right?
That's
Okay.
correct. So
Okay, that changes my mind completely.
And
So-
we you don't need landscaping to be installed to get a CO.
Right, I have some neighbors that don't even, anyway.
Right.
Anyway, sorry, it's another story.
Okay. So no, not even these first 5 lots are going to have we're not going to connect anything to city water, period.
Gotcha. Okay.
What
Go
I'm
ahead.
trying to understand is why are we going above the 2 lots? Because the 2 lots have the homes built on them. Why are we allowing anything more than that at this point? I'm slightly worried that back in the beginning of 2025, I think it was the council that allowed this somewhat of a slippery slope here. So why would we allow 3 more? And I guess that's not necessarily a question. Well, unless the developer has a good answer to that question,
Sure.
that's what I'm confused about. I want to limit it to the 2.
So right now, there is no 2 limit. There are 2 homes that are under construction because building permits have already been issued, but there is no limit on the number of permits that could be issued. So we could build 37 homes today. We just can't get a certificate of occupancy for any of them until we're either connected to secondary water or we have a deferral agreement. So there's no 2 limit today, but there is not anything in place allowing certificates of occupancy. And so we're actually working with city staff to go through the permitting process for a 3rd home right now. And so the 5 would be a new limit that's imposed along with the 12-month time limit imposed that says we've got to secure secondary water and get it connected with a water company during the next 12 months.
And I was slightly worried that the board hasn't officially approved it. They might have given a nod that this is going to go through, but I'm slightly worried that we make an agreement now and then board meets and says, no, that worries me.
They took our check for $318,000. So I share your concern. I think it's highly unlikely that they're going to say no on the 26th. And as John pointed out, they're in the business of providing secondary water. We've already put all the pipes in the ground. I hope and believe that it's a formality to get that approval on the 26th.
So one thing John and I mentioned earlier today, and I don't know if he's mentioned to you, would you be willing to do having a conditional acceptance based on the 26th meeting? That we could approve it tonight based on what's going to happen on the 26th, and we just won't sign it until the 26th, 27th.
I'm fine with that.
But that's an option that we can do a conditional acceptance
Yeah.
based
Felt
on.
much better about that.
Yep.
I would too.
John, I think it's really important to get your input on this as our attorney. I would love to just get a little bit, how comfortable are you? Are you 90% comfortable? Are you 100% comfortable? Are you 67% comfortable? Like, I really rely on you for these type of things.
So when that bond posts, the posting of the bond is essentially would be the trigger for the occupancy permit. I mean, that's them putting $800,000. Well, really, it ends up almost being closer to 900 with the 10% contingency on the line. It's basically, it's at the city's option to call it if we need to. These agreements, they're never bulletproof, but I feel like this is a good work through. Eliminated some of the fluff that I had added, to make it seem firmer than it probably really was, but left in the critical things. And like I said, that bond being increased based on our city engineer's recommendation, and then that deed restriction that's going to be imposed on the property, those are two really significant things. In 10 and 20 years, some people will still be caught off guard by the water restriction, but it's because they signed stuff when they bought their house that they didn't read. And title companies are so much better at that than they used to be, that I feel comfortable that this has the legal stuff we need. As far as the building permits being started, that's required as soon as they can record their plat, they're allowed to. The fact that they were allowed to record their plat is something that we've corrected on the city side, to where we're not going to let people record plats unless they have been annexed into a water district or a sewer district, all that sort of stuff, and have the water rights. They won't obviously have to have the infrastructure because they typically don't install that till they've got their final approvals. But we have corrected that so that we don't end up in this weird limbo that we found ourselves in moving forward.
Yeah, go ahead.
So maybe I'm asking the same question 7 different times, but so the culinary is hooked up, the secondary is hooked up, meters are in place for Pineview meters or Mountain View?
Pineview is who we expect to work with.
But meters are installed in the ground.
I don't believe they are, Jeff. Meters already installed, I don't think is the case yet.
Okay, but
yeah, so the
I mean,
pipes are in the ground.
secondary, yeah, the pipes are in the ground. All that we're bonding for is the connection for into the pond or whatever they're calling it, retention thing, to pump it up to that subdivision.
Correct. We have 2 engineer estimates. One of them is less than $20,000 if we're able to connect to the north.
Which is Mountain View, right?
Which is Mountain View, and those pipes are right across our property line. If we have to do the more expensive option, obviously $800,000 is a lot more than 20, but we're willing to do it if we have to.
Okay. Yeah. And in some of the other minor things that, and this is when Mountain View eventually, it's not going to be this year, talking to Brian Bartholomew, but next year when Pineview takes over Mountain View, that all those water shares have to be figured out, because I know, I can't remember if it got passed in the state legislature, but they said any new development only gets 0.3 yada yada. And so I don't know if that's going to be coming for everybody. Well, if it gets signed, I don't know if it got signed, but that's coming for everybody. And so I think that's something that we're just going to have to be living with, period. And I know it's going to be a shocker when folks start using their secondary water and it gets shut off in June because they haven't budgeted but very well on their water supply. But That aside, I think the biggest thing that I was worried about was, for whatever reason, I thought we were using culinary throughout this thing. So if that's not the case, I think the next biggest thing is making sure that we get this done. And if it's contingent upon, if we make it contingent upon that, I think I'm good.
Okay. Any other discussion or questions?
Is there an agreement number on this one? No. I gotta get used to that. We're not doing that now. Okay. Okay, I gotta keep that in my mind. Thank you.
Any other discussions or questions for Barry? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any discussions amongst ourselves or with John?
I'm ready for a motion.
Okay.
Do we, well, sorry, one more thing. So did we need to, because Stephanie was talking about the shall statements, and I was trying to blitz through it quick enough to find the should versus shalls.
So those are in the agreements between Weber, Box Elder Conservation District and Weber Basin.
Okay.
That would really be up to them to amend.
Okay.
Could I
So-
address that?
Oh, sure.
Question. Stephanie did bring up a good point that some of the language is should or shall, and as we worked with John on the language, we've mirrored the language that's in the contract that we were forced to sign with Weber Box Elder Water Conservation District. I believe that they deliberately have some should and some shall. And as an example, if you put shall for a certain type of sprinkler head, the new Gizmo 2000 or whatever the latest and greatest is today. Well, if you make that mandatory, maybe next year there's the Gizmo 4000, which is even better. But now we've mandated that an out of date, technology is in place. And so I think they deliberately put should to encourage water conservation technology, but they also recognize that what is the latest and greatest today may not be 1 or 2 years from now. So we want to give homeowners the flexibility to comply with the intent and the conservation. The 0.38 acre feet is hard and fast. That's not going to change, but what is the best sprinkler head tomorrow might be different than what it is today. So let's not mandate today's technology. I
Yeah.
believe that's why they have that.
Okay, and I did look for shells like in how big things can be and how many square feet of this can have and yada yada. So I think we're good there. I didn't see anything else that was, okay, sorry, interrupted you.
Oh, no problem. I move that we approve the deferral agreement for the installation of secondary water improvements for Jordan Park subdivision with the contingency that the agreement isn't signed until March 27th after the Weber Box Elder Conservation District has had their board meeting. I'm getting a raised hand by someone that is it Pineview? Is that what I'm trying
Yes.
to? Okay.
You get talk on it.
Yeah, come to the microphone, please. Yeah, not for
I've
the,
just been in meetings all day, but the March 26th is the Weber Basin board meeting. So how we've done this in the past, we've been doing contracts with them for years, is developers or us purchase the water and it has to go through their board. Once that check's signed, once I sign the contract, it's a formality through their board. And so that's the Weber Basin's board meeting. The Weber
Okay.
Box Elders board meeting will be April 14th for the inclusion.
okay, well, it's,
But the water is secured and the contract is in Weber Basin's hands right now.
so are we comfortable that we're putting an April 15th date, considering the Weber Basin board meeting is April 14th?
Weber Box. There's too many Webers, so.
Oh, man, it's confusing. Weber Basin board meeting.
Weber
What-
Box Elder. which
Weber
is
Box
fine.
Elder board
Okay.
meeting.
So
Okay.
give us the wording, just an example.
No, I got it now. It's the Weber Box Elder board meeting.
But to clarify, if Weber Basin on the 26th approves the water shares transfer to Weber Box Elder, what's the likelihood that it gets denied by Weber Box Elder's board on the 14th?
0. If
Okay.
we had the water yesterday, it would have been approved in today's
Okay.
board meeting.
So I'm back to Weber
So
Basin wording.
you could do Weber Basin. And we could ask John if he's comfortable.
Okay.
There's a water attorney. here,
John,
if he's
make sure
comfortable.
I say it right. So let's just redo it just in
Okay.
case. I move that we approve a deferral agreement for the installation of secondary water improvements for Jordan Park subdivision, with the caveat that we are awaiting final signature on March 27th after the Weber Basin board meeting.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Dowpaz, but second by Councilmember Pulver. Do we have any further discussion? Okay, roll call vote. Councilmember Pulver,
Yes.
Councilmember Carney,
Yes.
Councilmember Neighbor,
Yes.
and Councilmember Dowpass.
Yes.
Okay, that deferral agreement passed 4-0. Okay, moving on. Item number 9, discussion and consideration of ordinance 2026-07, amending North Ogden City Code, section 11-12A-2, permitted uses in commercial zones to establish regulations for massage establishments and amending section 11-7, definitions to update the definition of a massage establishment. And we're going to hear from our Community and Economic Development Director, Scott Hess.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So we have in front of us an ordinance amendment that was related to a temporary land use regulation that was enacted by the council on October 14th, 2025, pausing all business licenses for massage establishments as defined in the code. Planning Commission held a public hearing November 5th, 2025. Staff did research among other cities about ways to protect residents, the businesses, the city, our public safety, and the general welfare of the public from businesses that are operating contrary to their business license. We have, I've provided the analysis, the Planning Commission, and the recommendations. In the definition itself, we're recommending that we pull the language out of there that is currently on the temporary land use regulation. That ends March 9th, 2026. So we're currently back to operating as normal. And adding the language, all massage therapists performing work outlined above must be trained and licensed in accordance with Utah State Code, Title 58, Chapter 47B, and meet requirements outlined in North Ogden Code 1110A2. And then we placed it in the permitted uses. And there's a number of ways we could have done this, but we wanted it to be simple. So we've changed massage establishments back to permitted uses in the commercial zone as it was before, but added elements A, B, and C. So A is massage therapists must be licensed and identified in accordance with Utah State Code, that products used in massage, esthetician, or other similar services must be made available for sale as part of the business operation, and business storefronts must have 100% transparent glazing minus approved signage. This shall be reviewed and approved at the time of the business license. Planning Commission had asked staff to review this with our code enforcement officers and our public safety officials. So Chief Ein and I had conversation about this and ways that they could protect citizens, business owners, city from liability, and felt like these were appropriate measures that we could put in place for new businesses. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Any questions for Scott? Yeah, go ahead.
Not questions, but just the fact that, sometimes people don't think that this is really a thing, but Harrisville City just shut one down. Just barely. 2. So it's something we need to be not prepared for, but watching for, because this is, the exploitation is just, is real. So, and that's a hole that we don't want to be trying to fix. So.
Also recently, the Division of Professional Licensing has identified certain professions where this is a problem, and massage therapists are on that list as well. So consistent with what you're saying.
Okay, any other discussion? If not, I'd be looking for a motion to approve ordinance 2026-07, all of that as listed. I don't want to read it all again.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Carney, a second by Councilmember Pulver. Does that work, Ryan? Okay, perfect.
All that.
Okay, another roll call vote. Councilmember Pulver?
Yes.
Councilmember Carney?
Yes.
Councilmember Neighbor?
Yes.
And Councilmember Dowpass?
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes 4-0. Next, we'll be looking at item number 10, discussion and consideration of a third-party event coordinator contract. And this is with our presenters, John Call, our city manager.
Thank you, council, or mayor. Sorry, we don't have Word approved on this yet, so I'm having to open it in a different way. So this is basically just the same agreement we had last year with Morgan Sutherland to provide the services for our events. This is, as you remember, council, this is we used to have an employee who did this. we had a full-time events coordinator employee. When that person found another position, we opted to contract the work out. And with that, we lost a little bit of employee time, obviously. But with the efforts of some good citizens and some staff, we picked up the Cherry Days portion. And then with this contract, we've picked up the remaining items. One thing that was identified, and I wanted to talk about it tonight, was instead of the Fright Night, it's actually called the Trunk or Treat. And so that would be the event, but the other events that this individual would be taking on would be the children's craft market, movies in the park, and the flick and float. Those are tied together. The trunk or treat, the Easter egg hunt, the tree lighting, and the North Pole. And then any other events. So a good example is we've talked about doing a Touch a Truck event and maybe melding that into some of the other events. There was some excitement there. And then in talking with Morgan about this contract, she's expressed some interest in being okay that this one is just, again, for another year, but she would have interest in a longer term contract if the council was willing as well. So the mayor and I can talk about that. And if we'd like to extend it further, we could do that sometime this year and keep that going. So any questions, concerns?
I have a couple questions. The trunk or treat, at least on the agreement I can see here, is not listed.
It's got to change it.
Right night.
Okay, thank you. You did say that, but somehow, yeah, okay.
Well, Councilmember Pulver caught it. It was
Okay.
called the Fright Night the first time we did it because it was in the evening and it was cold. Dave brought his heater and it was cold.
Thank you. And then I think Morgan has a different last name now.
Thank you.
So Sutherland.
Sure, Tootie.
Right?
Oh, that's
Mary?
right. Yeah.
Yeah, Mary.
It was, yeah. So what we'll do, if council's okay, we'll ask her what name she would prefer to be on it and we'll put that there. Sorry, growing up, I knew her as Morgan Greaves, so.
Any other questions for John?
I think the one thing that Council Member Watson had asked is about that the first event being so close, if that's something that she's going to be able to do, or if Kiwanis is going to do it solo, or maybe she can switch to something else if that's the case.
So we think we can still, with staff support, get it off the ground. Kiwanis is pretty good on that, and we have some good community partners that have helped with it. Which honestly, one of the biggest is the YCC, or the Youth City Council.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the same. It's not the shelter for families, and it's yeah. And so we'll coordinate that, and I'm sure once I told Morgan that the council discussion last week, she's already started working on it. So.
Just one item on that, in the first page, the last paragraph, is that last part of that sentence necessary? And to the best of their abilities, or aren't we just saying you have to follow the guidelines? Just a minor thing.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I think it's in there just in case there's small oversights. A good example is there's a book out there called 2 Felonies a Day that basically says everyone commits 2 felonies every day on average. So, but if you had a different,
I'm looking at item X. Doesn't that essentially say she has to follow all those anyway in item X?
let's see.
Yeah,
that's
that
not
she has
good.
to follow.
I mean, I don't see an issue there that we have something unreasonable, so we could eliminate and to the best of their abilities from there. I feel comfortable doing that.
Okay, just a minor thing.
Okay.
Mayor, I move we approve the third-party event coordinator contract with the noted changes that we've discussed, Fright Night to Trunk or Treat, deleting that sentence that John just said, and also deciding on what last name Morgan would like to use.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Pulver. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Carney. Do we have further discussion? All right, roll call vote. Councilmember Pulver.
Yes.
Councilmember Carney.
Yes.
Councilmember Neighbor.
Yes.
And Councilmember Dowpats.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes 4-0. Item number 11, discussion and consideration of an agreement with Musical Theater International, MTI, to contract for a community play in August 2026. And our presenter is John Call.
Thank you, Mayor. So council, this is the contract for the Matilda production that the city would like to put on. Now this will be, as we talked about, using city funds to fund the program, and then the ticket sales would reimburse that, as well as any additional sponsorships or other things that can be raised. With the history of our shows and the two that were done by private groups last year, each one of them ended up in the black. So positive with that combination of things when they were kind of targeted around the $20,000 to $25,000 budget. The one positive we have, I think, is that last year the groups that participated, they sold tickets higher than we have in the past. So the city in the past have sold them at $8 or $10. Last year, I think Bye Bye Birdie did them at $15 and had a really successful run. So our current plan is to do $15. And it's currently, our budget is projected at about 300 tickets a show. And we should make about $30,000 off of it. So in theory, it would break even if we did sell out and made, sold $500 a night. One thing that's unique about these contracts is at the end, there's kind of a reconciliation, and we report to them how many tickets we actually sold. And then they'll either give us a refund back if we didn't sell as many as we thought we would, or we would owe them a little bit more money. We hope we owe them a little bit more money because it means it was a more successful play. And then, as mentioned last week, the folks who will be putting this play on are associated with the University of Utah. They are students that are in the theater teaching program. So they're the basically teachers who are heading out to be theatrical teachers at junior highs and high schools. Some of them may end up in college, but the majority of will end up in those school systems. And a big shout out to Victoria, who's put all this together. She understands theater. She has a real passion for it. And we're really excited to see how this program goes. One note just to be aware of is that the RAMP committee met and there wasn't enough money in their budget. They had a significant number of requests come in to fund I think we asked for $35,000 for the amphitheater this year. There wasn't any money available for that, but we're still comfortable that at least this program and the other children's camp that we talked about, we can fund with the money that we have and the ticket sales generated. Again, both of those we project coming in as a positive to the city. We were just hoping the additional money would help maybe buy some mics and then help with some of the other groups that want to perform, to help them with some of their programming or set pieces, and that's just not going to be available this year. So we'll talk to them and let them know that they may need to pivot to other things. So,
John, is the budget sheet? We're not approving a budget or anything there.
no, this was just to help you understand that Victoria had gone through and kind of outlined how much she thought everything was going to cost. Some of these costs for this program will come in June. So we wanted to make sure the council was aware of that. It will fall under those monies that we talked about in the Parks and Rec admin or events budget. But the majority of them will likely fall in July and August because the show's in August.
Oh, so the budget gets split up between fiscal years. That's why.
Yeah,
you got fiscal year 27 there.
Yeah, like we'll purchase the rights now.
Okay.
Because we can't advertise the show even for auditions until we purchase the rights.
Okay.
And if you haven't seen Matilda, it was fairly popular on Netflix a couple years ago, or if you ever saw the old, the old version. But one helpful thing we've found is that there are not any theaters anywhere near us that are doing Matilda this summer, that at least that have announced yet. And so Last year, if you looked at Newsies, there were 6 along the Wasatch Front, 6 productions of Newsies on the Wasatch Front last year. So we're hoping for some good participation from community kids and then their parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, and their council members to come watch the show.
That's right.
Okay, any other questions for John? Yeah, go ahead, Councilmember Pulver.
I don't know about a comment, but statement. I think the biggest part of this is establishing the amphitheater. And I think that's the kind of the key thing. And you have some naysayers like, just fill it in like the pool and stuff like that. But I think the overall goal is this is the anchor for Barker Park and what is going to be the future. There's a lot of folks that just don't think that's the case, but I think the grand vision is there. It just needs to be reinforced. And I think these are the baby steps that we needed. And I think we're doing that. And I think establishing this as something, as a place that theater companies can come and use in a spectacular way, in a spectacular setting, which is second to none in my opinion. I think that's going to grow, and obviously, because it's restricted by parking. Just a note, this Thursday, they're having a Barker Park thing here at 5 o'clock. Just point for that. But that's the future. And so looking forward to the future, that is kind of a big part of how we're going to use park impact fees. And so if we don't have this amphitheater as an anchor, what's the point? So I think this is, an aspect of culture that I'm not huge on, but at the same time, a lot of people are. So let's focus on that and build it. And I think this is perfect. So thanks.
Okay, be looking for a motion to approve the agreement with Musical Theater International to contract for a community play in August 2026.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion by Councilmember Neighbor. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Carney. Okay, any other further discussion? Roll call vote. Councilmember Pulver.
Yes.
Councilmember Carney.
Yes.
Councilmember Neighbor.
Yes.
And Councilmember Dalpass.
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes 4-0. Okay, moving on to City Council Pillar Assignment Updates, and we'll first hear about Community Pillar from Council Members Dalpaz and Pulver, whichever one is for both.
I really like this because if I didn't prepare anything, I just looked to Councilman Pulver. I actually did not prepare anything this time. I'm going to be completely honest. I'm still trying to get my feet wet with this new assignment. So Councilman Pulver did mention something.
What did I mention?
The Barker Park.
Oh,
that's community type engagement stuff.
Yeah, the community. Yeah, tomorrow is basically what do we call them? Not developer. Consultant that is going to present their concept of Barker Park, future Barker Park, and what it's going to look like. I think and involve the community. So we have a long time Build Barker Park right in the front row right here. We'll recognize him. Anyways, Rod. So
That's Thursday.
didn't I say Thursday?
P.S. I think you said tomorrow.
I think you said
Tomorrow,
yesterday.
Thursday. It would be lovely to be Thursday tomorrow, but anyway.
So it's Thursday, March 12th.
Yeah, 5 o'clock.
5 to 7 p.m.
Yep.
here in the Public Safety Building.
There you go. Anyway. What else, Ryan? What else do you want to talk about for community involvement? I think
That I was going to mention is that Barker Park Community Outreach, and it's going to be really great. We're hoping to have a good turnout of the community. We're going to be finding out what's important to the community members, what they want to see at Barker Park, what activities they plan to attend there. And also this is going to be a phased project. So it's not like a blank canvas community outreach. We have a plan. What we're asking really is, where do you want us to start? And what's most important to our community members for this Barker Park?
Yeah.
So that's coming up. And then Cherry Days planning is underway. It's going great. Everybody has their assignments. I listened into last week's meeting. I apologize for missing that. Thank you for all of you guys who volunteered to be at all of the events. And we're going full steam ahead. Everything's going well so far. So lots of vendor applications for the market and the park. That's something that I personally am over, and that's going really well. I think it's going to be really great this year. So.
In Mayor Barker, not mandates, but assures us we'll have the biggest show in at least this part of the county. Fireworks, right? Is that what you said? Anyways, and then so
On the eye of the beholder.
yes. So, but the community pillar folks need to get together and we're to figure out metrics. I think that's kind of the biggest thing is if you're not tracking yourself, well, goals and then metrics, but if you're not figuring out what you're trying to do and taking a good read on where you're at, you have no idea if you're doing it. So,
And to that point, with that Placer AI software that we talked about last time, we'll be able to look at all our events, the attendance, and as well as our vendor applications and other things, and just hopefully bring a statistical, like here's what we've seen for the last 3 or 4 years. I will say that, you know, one of the things that Ryan's been working really hard on is bringing back some bounce houses, you know, which is something that the Citizen Cherry Days Committee had made a big part of their program. And so we've responded to citizen requests or resident requests. And so she's working on it. What we're trying to do is also house all the liability with the bounce house person as well. So it'll likely be for a fee, which it was before. It's just before the city was collecting the fee, and then we had a contract for the liability. But this way, we're hoping it'll be a third party who will be able to make some money and provide a good service to the community.
How many of our residents came up asking where's the carnival or bounce houses for the kids last year while John and I were manning the information booth. And so that's something that I just think would be really important for the families to have something. And to John's point, I actually opened my email during the meeting and I have one of those bounce house companies interested in doing it just the way we're looking. So it's looking really positive. I think this Cherry Days is going to be a really special one.
Okay, thank you. And then I get to update you on employees. So we just hired a new employee, started yesterday. Corey Owens with the stormwater. Katie sent that out to us, and he's coming to us with, I don't know how many years of experience from Cache County. So he's a seasoned stormwater technician. And then Aquatic Center, we hired a maintenance person, Jameson Hurst. He starts on the 16th. So he'll be helping Justin over at the pool here soon. And then we have openings in the seasonal park maintenance positions to help mow lawns and with maintaining our parks throughout the summer. And then we also have 2 openings for 2 lateral police officers or entry level, whichever. I think you'll take whoever you can get, not whoever you can get. We want good people. Good people.
It's coming from a fireman.
All the good people are already firefighters, so you'll take whatever's left.
Wow.
Yep. Okay, that's employees update. Now we'll go back to public comments. So this is again your chance to come up to the microphone, state your name, whether you're resident in North Ogden, and comments 5 minutes or less. So time is yours.
John Arrington, a resident of North Ogden, excuse me. I was interested tonight in the fact that you now have appointed an events coordinator. As a member of the Kiwanis Club, I'm excited to hear this. We have a person on our board that's been trying to figure out somebody that knows what our critical needs are for the breakfast. We're happy to do it, but since probably half of us are over 80 years old, don't have a lot of physical ability to do it. So we do need a lot of help in doing the breakfast. We think it's important to the community. We have the equipment and the expertise to do it. We just need help. So I'll just stop by the office and find out who this person is so I can tell our board member.
John, it's me. I'm over the sunrise service and the Kiwanis breakfast for Cherry Days.
Yeah.
So.
Anyway, our needs are just getting more and more. And so we just want to make sure that this organization can provide us the help that we need. Thank you.
Anyone online? Nope.
Nope.
Okay, moving on to mayor, council, staff comments. We'll start with staff. Ryan?
Again, the reminder about Thursday's Barker Park Community Outreach. And then we do have an audit committee meeting this month on the 26th. So a reminder about that.
Okay, Peter? Scott? Dave? Chief? John?
And so this is for the whole audience, obviously, not just the council, but as a reminder, these 4 pillars, and really 5 if you include finance, the focus is that it allows the council to be a little more flexible on, hey, maybe this month, you know, for finance, I really want to focus on this component, as opposed to giving the standard, well, there's this many building permits and things. So that we're just trying to mix it up and let each of you kind of obviously follow up on the metrics, but you know, until those metrics are being actually given to you, that you can say, well, I really want to focus on this topic because I feel like that's an important thing. It could even be, hey, I was talking with Bob down the street and he said, you know, the city ought to get back into this activity. And, you know, it's good feedback for staff and the folks to know that we are trying to come up with new ways to connect and be efficient. You know, the Citizen Budget Committee meets every Wednesday, and not just so you're aware that one of the things they'll be tackling this year from a policy perspective is employee benefits. And I think that'll be good to get some feedback to the council on how we fit. You know, from my perspective, I feel like we're kind of middle of the row on benefits, but as we compare to other cities, you know, and other stuff like that, I was looking at it, and the state, for example, every state employee gets $50,000 of life insurance. And our city employees do get 20,000, but that's not quite 50. So I feel like we're kind of a good balance. And I just am actually excited for the conversation with the Citizen Budget Committee, because I think what we've found is, as we dig into a lot of these things, that we find a few things we can work on, but we find in a large part that we've been pretty successful and pretty fair and you know, with the city, the residents, and the employees on those sort of things. So anyways, that's what I've got.
Okay, council, do you have anything you'd like to add? Councilmember Pulver.
It's every other week for the budget committee. So if it was every week, I don't think I'd be here.
I just wanted, we mentioned this last week, but just to address Mr. Arrington's remarks on the breakfast, be in touch with us. There's been some years that they've asked the council to come help set up the night before. So let's be in touch well ahead of time to make sure we have it all figured out. We're very willing to help with that, especially as you mentioned, the average age is 80 or higher. So we are very happy to help. Perfect. Yep. Go through Ryan and she'll get us in shape. I just was curious. I haven't heard much officially yet, and I believe the first revision of the budget will be coming out soon. Do we have a general idea as to how the budget looks this year, how scarce it is, how challenging it's going to be? Where are we at? Are we ready to talk about that yet?
So are you talking about the current year budget or the next year's budget?
Next year's budget, all of the next fiscal year budget,
Okay.
everything that we're talking about as far as what we're going to have, what we're not going to have, and what it's looking like.
So we've got, I would say, draft figures from the most of the budget pieces, departments that all kind of fold together into the budget from an expenditure standpoint, kind of see what we're looking at. And then I've sort of projected revenues just real loosely at this point. You know, for example, like sales tax just staying the same, property tax, just to kind of move it across the board so I can kind of look at it. But I don't really have any really strong feedback at this point. It looks about average. It looks about where we kind of expect it to be next year. I'll have more probably in a month that can give you some better direction as to where we're going to be landing. We do have to have it by May 1st, tentative budget. to the council for a public meeting, and that that's kind of your first crack at it. It'll be chewed through a little bit at that point. Won't be completely finalized until June, but we have been looking at it holistically at this point for next year, and there's nothing really that jumps out at me at this point. So,
Okay.
I know. I'm sorry, that's kind of vague, but do you have any specifically that you were concerned
it-
about, or?
it's just the transportation utility fee has been weighing heavily on me with the amount of feedback that we've received this week. And I'm just really, really hoping that we can keep property taxes flat or barely up. So that's just why I'm trying to get a feeling for you right now,
Okay.
how things are looking, because I'm really, really worried about how we've had to put that on the residents right now. And I just really scared about having the discussion of property tax increases considering that. And I'm just kind of freaked out about it like I always am.
Okay.
Peter, have we heard, and I haven't looked at this, have we heard, was there any changes on the carry forward balance? Did the legislature reduce that from 35 to 25?
Yeah.
Yes, but we have 5 years to bring it into line. So within the next 5 years, we'll need to drop it down to 25% from 35.
It was, we're not 50,000, so I thought it was like 27 or 28 or something.
28.
It was a graduated scale that they, in the final version of the bill.
I thought we fell in the category of
It
a
was
city.
50,000 had to be 25. We weren't 50,000. We don't have 50,000 people, do we?
No.
Okay. So I didn't, I guess they must have moved the numbers from last version.
Thought so.
I saw.
Anyway,
So
so
no, but yeah, so we will need to reduce from 35 down to another number between 25 and 35.
That's too bad.
Okay. Any other council?
Thank you,
discussion?
Peter.
but yeah, just on the city budget committee, we're tracking to get information ahead of time so that when they discuss it at city council, that they'll have recommendations for that. So that's kind of like we were talking about the HR benefits and revenues last meeting, and this next one, we're going to talk about enterprise funds and admin transfer. So that's like, a meeting ahead, so to speak. So anyway.
Okay. And then just as well, John and I were talking as with all this new legislative items, we will have an updated approving budget coming to you here soon, where it's going to change a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit. So we'll get that to you. Any other discussion? If not, I'd be looking for a motion to adjourn. Or we can stay here tonight if you want.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Carney. A second?